Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Now, you might notice that this isn't my typical camera angle. You might notice the colours look a little bit off as well because I ran out of time to be able to actually configure this camera correctly. However, I just want to share something with you because what you are seeing here is my camera, or a second camera I should add, running through the HDZero HDMI VTX. And I can tell you now, HDZero has never looked so good. Oh, my goggles, where are they? I'm going to move the goggles. They've gone into standby. Wait a minute. There we go. The goggles beeped at me. There we go. We're back. We're back. However, this is the live feed from the HDZero HDMI VTX. And when I say HDZero, I should say this is the DiviMath NDAA compliant VTX. But I just wanted to show you guys how good this could look. Just to prove it, here is the goggles with the HDMI input. You saw some sparkles there a second when I moved it around. I'm trying to be careful. The colour isn't right on this camera compared to my usual studio setup. If I just go like that, you can see the usual colour setup there. I have to bend the camera's colour profile to correctly replicate the colours in here. There's a bit of a strange lighting effect that I get. And there is some sparkles, but we're quite close to it. There's a bit of noise in here as well. But man, how good does this look? Yeah, it's more warm. I just needed to mess with... I needed to do a grey card and reset the white balance properly. I just ran out of time. I was trying to do this quickly before getting on stream. But I just wanted to show how good can HDZero look. That is impressive. That really, really is impressive for the HDZero system. And often you see people talk about HDZero's image quality. Yeah, it's probably missing a few frames. Look, I haven't really had a chance to rush this through quickly. Oh, my cup of tea's arriving. Let me just go and grab that because I've got cables everywhere that could trip a person over. Here we go. I didn't even have time to synchronize the audio, if I'm honest. So even the audio. This is the DiviMath NDAA compliant HDMI VTX. So for those who don't know, and I got a video coming on it, but they have a HDMI input VTX, which is this one here. Let me turn on NVIDIA Broadcast. There we go. You can see there, which takes a HDMI input, takes 720p, 1080p. But yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all. And I just thought, I haven't done the color again. I ran out of time to be able to set the white balance. So I was like, oh, bugger, let's just go for it. I haven't even set it up properly. But man, and what you're seeing color-wise is the camera, not HDZero. Yeah, I think it's a little bright. I need to take the brightness down. I have to tune my setup quite a predictable way for me to be able to get it to look how it looks. Yeah, color grading, blah, 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 all the usual stuff. But more than anything, I just wanted to show you what the quality of it was like, because you've got Tony 2 there. There's some real nice Tony 2 back there. So yeah, I thought, what is the best way of showing this? Well, this is the best way of showing this. Have I found it? No, I've only just got to it on the bench. I've tried it with a few cameras. Just working through testing it at the moment. Yes, this is an expensive bit of kit. It is $300. This isn't designed for the everyday user because it is NDAA compliant as well. So it does support the encryption for HDZero 2. HDZero 2. It can be encrypted, unlike the normal HDZero system. But yeah, so quite good. If I'd have had more time, I would have set the colours up properly. Just shows you how much I tune the camera. Ooh, sparkles, sparkles. Just shows how much we tune the camera between that, which is my normal mode, and that, which is that. That's how it would look if I didn't tune the camera. There's a funny situation in here, because the walls are this... Oh, goggles are going to go again. Goggles have gone into standby. I need to turn that feature off. I've had to rock the goggles. Yeah, there is a lot of detail, an incredible amount of detail. The problem is, because I'm not wearing the goggles, they keep going into standby. I need to turn that feature off. But yeah, it really, really is quite impressive. So, thought I'd show it to you. An interesting bit of kit. It is available. I'll have a full video on it. I even flew it through my PC earlier on the sim as well. So I even did that, which was quite fun. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to the normal screen. I'm just going to shut this all down so it doesn't cook itself. And I will be back in 1 second. Off. There we go. Getting back to normal. Right, there we go. Okay, so tonight we are going to be talking about DJI's frankly rather crappy behaviour once again, using what appears to be backdoors to make changes on products that you've already bought. We're going to talk about the FCC changes. Yes, I published a video yesterday on this and then took it down. The only reason I took it down was because I accidentally set Resolve Studio to 6 kilobytes a second. And as a result of that, it went into Minecraft mode. It should have been 60,000 kilobits a second, but for those who are on my Discord, you'd have seen it was actually 6 kilobits a second. So I ended up taking it back down. Because I messed up. That's what happens when you don't watch the final video edit. I always watch the edit, but I didn't watch the export before uploading and publishing. It was, yeah, a lot of people thought it was the YouTube problem. It was a skill problem. So we're going to talk about that, and I'll talk about if I'm going to put the video back up or not. I've already also recorded a Q&A video at the same time, and I might just publish that because I think it's probably a bit better for people. But yeah, it was absolutely horrific for those who had seen it. We'll also talk about Jumper, have a new radio, and we'll talk about anything else that comes up along the way as well. Now, let me just make sure I change this correct setting. So I need to do this. Okay, that's not working. No, that, and then that. Aha. There we go. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this, and this, and... oh, well, it's vanished now. Where's it gone? My DJI remote controller has vanished. Okay, we're going to go with this. And the fact that this week there's been... obviously, we're into 2026. Yes, I know, I got the video wrong earlier. But it is 2026. And new UK drone regulations have come into play, which basically synchronises C classification with the new upcoming UK classification. Whilst it's not technically the same, it's largely the same. But the basics are that they've now adopted the C regulation for the next 2 years. So any drone that was C0 has acquired the equivalent of UK 0. This, though, introduces a change, which is the drone must now be limited to a maximum altitude of 120 meters from the takeoff point. And it is a valid reason DJI made the change in the firmware. What is completely unacceptable is the fact that DJI changed this setting on consumers' products without any notification, without any choice to be able to accept or decline it. And over the years, I've spent a lot of time defending DJI for things where people have said, but DJI could shut your drone down, they could block FCC hacks, they could stop you flying. And it's always been a very, yes, they probably can. However, the reality is they probably wouldn't. Shit like this is why DJI is in the trouble they're in. And look, the US troubles are far more complicated than that. But the fact is, once again, DJI have proven either through a back door or a hidden change that they've not told anyone about, which is a time bomb. Because take into account here, my drone is not on the latest firmware. My drone has not been updated since mid last year. Further to that, it is not often online, yet it changed. Now, is it the specific reason DJI got banned? No, of course it isn't. There's a fucking 100 reasons why DJI got banned. But the truth is, behavior like this is the reason people are suspicious of DJI. Behavior like this is why DJI cannot be trusted, because they have retrospectively changed your product without your permission. And no company in the world is allowed or should be allowed to do that. It doesn't matter what the regulation says. Regulation is a user is required to ensure they are compliant with the regulation. It is not down to the drone manufacturer to enforce that on a product that has already been purchased. Now, what is absolutely legitimate is every product from the 1st of January that is activated had this new limitation, because that is the requirements of the classification. It is absolutely legitimate for that to be the case. What isn't legitimate is for them to make a stealth change without you even being told. You weren't even given the option. Now, they have done this in one of 3 ways that I can think of. It's either been baked into firmware since 6+ months ago and a time bomb was set on it to go off on the 1st of January 2025. They have pushed a backdoor update to the Fly app without you even knowing that it's happened. Well, it's really 2 options. It can only be those 2 options. Someone asked earlier that, this is probably an NFC. It's like when they do the NFC thing. It can't be, because it must have been communicated to the drone when to trigger. DJI have baked this in somewhere. A time bomb or a back-end push to enforce it from this point in time. My suspicion is, and this isn't the first time they have done this, DJI have been caught many times with backdoor communications in the Fly app. That is not new. That is far from surprising. But what's really annoying is they are still pulling stunts like this. And it's indefensible. From a consumer perspective, it is completely unacceptable for a company, regardless of what the product is, to make a change to how your product works. Now, if I had just bought a drone with this and it had changed, I'll be honest, I would be throwing it back at the retailer. Because the only way DJI will learn on shit like this is when it starts causing them problems. If I'd have bought a Mini 5 or a Mini 4 or a Neo 2, because this affects the Neo 2 as well, I just take it back and say, you've changed this after I bought it. I'm not accepting this. Sorry, I'm not having this, because every time people just go, oh, well, that was shit, and move forward, it means DJI get away with it. Now, I'll be clear. The change that has been made is required for the drones moving forward and today to be compliant in the regulations. You would have had to have applied this to be compliant. But again, the choice should have been yours, because you actually have a choice. Your choice is accept this, have the limitation, and continue in A1C0, or don't accept this and agree that you will only then fly the drone in A3. There are a number of people who would have been happy to continue in A3 with the 500 meter capability, yet they have not been given the choice. And that is what is bad about this. It isn't the fact that they have done this as an option, it's the fact that it was forced upon users. And it is shit like this that gets DJI into trouble. It's not the first time. It's not the last time. They'll do it again. It's been a long time that I can remember. Someone pointed out they did do it in India a while ago. But it's been a while since DJI have been performing like scumbags. And this is another one of those occasions. No company should change the features of your product without you being given the option. It should have been in a firmware update where it said, quite simply, introduces 120 meter limitation to comply with the new UK drone regulations. It's that simple. Or it should have been a pop-up box that says, for your drone to continue to be able to be classed as C0, you need to apply the following update that will impose a 120 meter restriction on your product. If you don't, your product is no longer legally C0 classified, and as a result, you should only fly to the local regulations. Again, who allows, no one should force the issue. And that's where my issue is. And it's shitty behaviour, and it again erodes the trust of consumers, and it is again playing straight into the hands of DJI cannot be trusted, because they can't. They cannot be trusted when they do this. You cannot trust a company that, without your permission, forces a change that removes a feature or capability of a product. It's that simple, and it doesn't matter what they make. It doesn't matter what it is. If a company introduces something that removes it without your ability to put it back, it is not acceptable. It never has been, and it never should be. So, it's bullshit behaviour. Now, there are people who will sit here and say, because Josh has gone, stop saying stuff without actually knowing things. Fuck off. You said they wouldn't. No, what I said was DJI wouldn't block you from flying your drones in the USA. We haven't even discussed the 120 meter rule in the UK. So you're talking nonsense. If you're going to bring something up, make sure you bring facts and not BS. It is annoying. For most people, it won't affect them. But again, and look, and Josh is actually making my point. DJI are never going to block you from flying your drone in the USA. But shit like this gives people the thoughts that they could. And that's the problem. They're never going to go, oh, you can't fly in the USA anymore. It's never going to happen. But it is stupid crap like this that makes that thought a possibility. And it is stupid crap like this that erodes the trust with consumers and erodes the trust with regulators and everything else. Because, again, if they have the ability to change that, what else could they change? That's the problem. There is what is reality and what is possible. It fucks with perception, yeah, as someone just said. And it's a shitty, shitty move. It's completely unacceptable. And frankly, as I said, and I'll say it one last time, if I had just bought it, I'd be throwing it at the retailer. And again, it's stupid shit like this. And again, what they've actually done from the change and what they've done in making the change for existing drones is completely valid. It just should have been a choice. Someone has asked, what aircraft does it affect? So, the understanding today is everything's C0. So, Mini 4, well, not everything's C0. Sorry, let me rephrase this. What we know about is a Neo 2, Mini 4 Pro, and Mini 5 Pro. That seems to be the products. There doesn't appear to be anything on Mini 3. It somewhat makes sense they've done this to those products because they're currently sold products. Officially. The other products are basically out of production now. Like the Mini 3 is an example. It's not in production now. So from a DJI perspective, it makes sense they don't do that. Yes, look, there are other restrictions that may also apply. Someone has said the A3 is restricted. Potentially, yes. Again, any alignment required to comply with the regulations DJI have likely imposed. So it is absolutely possible there are also effects on the A3 as well. Because again, it's the same scenario. And again, the fact they're making the changes, or at least the changes being available, isn't the problem. The problem is the complete lack of user ability to make the choice. DJI are not forced. There is no forcing anything. There is no requirement for DJI to force this on users. DJI are making a change that automatically ensures users are compliant, but that isn't acceptable when the user isn't given the choice. And this really could have been quite simple. A pop-up box that said, for you to maintain your drone C0 rating in the UK, you need to apply this update, which introduces a 120 meter limit. It's that simple. All it needed was a message. Now, it also seems that this is also affecting other countries. I think it was Switzerland, I think, is also affected by this as well. I am really disappointed in DJI on this one. Genuinely, I am very frustrated because there are those of us for years who have argued just because they can do something, they're unlikely to, and it, again, completely erodes this argument away and creates complete mistrust in the brand. And again, it's reasons like this that DJI has come under scrutiny. And it's not, look, nothing is as simple. You know, I never said, someone said, it's not the reason DJI have been banned. I never said it's the specific reason. It's things like this. And there are lots of things that I know that I can't even talk about publicly that DJI have got up to over the years. They have enough skeletons in the closet to really bury them. Are those skeletons really any worse than others? No. But there are a lot of skeletons in the closet that most people don't know about. But they're all at it. And that's where, is DJI any worse than others? Now, something interesting I don't know yet is what the situation is with the anti-gravity A1. Because technically, the anti-gravity A1 also falls under this exact legislation as well. And I will be interested to see how anti-gravity handle this. I haven't fired up my A1. Mine has actually been flown. No, has it been flown in 2026? No, it hasn't. So I need to check the A1 as well, because the A1 is also affected technically. This will have no impact on FPV systems, DJI O4. This is all about consumer drones. That's what this is about. And it is shitty. It's shitty behavior. It's shitty when any company, and it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter if it's DJI, Cadex, Autel, any of them. Any changes to functionality should be listed as either a pop-up with a choice or listed in a firmware update that is made clear before you do it. So that's my rant on shitty behavior from DJI. And again, I call out everyone, and they're getting it as much as anyone else right now. Have I seen, someone has mentioned, have I seen Cadex's new modular goggles? Yes, there was some images. Let me find my Discord. So obviously it is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this week, where all of the companies are spending all of their time talking about their AI and corporate and industry products, because why else would you go to the Consumer Electronics Show and talk about consumer electronics? You'd never do that. Instead, you're going to talk about all of your enterprise products and obviously the bucket loads of AI to keep that machine turning, because you wouldn't want the snake eating its tail to stop for 1 minute. Nvidia is obviously still pumping up the world in that regard, but yeah, there has been some stuff. Cadex is at CES. I've seen a few pictures. I'm trying to think where I've seen them. I have seen a picture of the goggles. Now obviously these are the goggles that Cadex announced after announcing that there won't be an upgrade board for the Goggles X. So this is apparently an early look at the new goggle from Cadex, which will have interchangeable modules. One for Ascent, one for Avatar HD. Looks small to me, unless the man has a giant head. But a lot of DJI cues here. You can see there is a band across the top. You can see there's a lot more space down the front, which isn't surprising. He's either got a giant head or they're very, very small. I am dubious on these goggles for one reason. I'm not sure are we going to get an equivalent of the Goggles X here. Cadex did an amazing job on the Goggles X, which had HDMI in, HDMI out, all of the other stuff. I'm not sure this is going to be the same. I wouldn't be shocked if this ended up just being a digital system goggle only. I just wouldn't be shocked on that. I'm not sure we'll have all of the I/O. Let's see. I could be wrong, but I just think, is that a very big ask? So, yeah, this is very interesting. I don't know if the guy stole the coat or he's looking to return it later. But yeah, look, it's an early look of what they've got to come, which is good news. Look, it's nice that they are doing things. Cadex have announced an awful lot of stuff in the last sort of 3 to 4 months. I have ordered my VRX module. So Cadex have put up the VRX module for pre-orders. I have bought and paid. Incredibly low price, $99, 73 quid in the UK. Very interesting indeed. There has been a bit of a change on this. Originally, this VRX said it was 4 watts, and that's now gone. I think Cadex made a bit of a mistake on the website, if I'm honest, and updated it. But they're now saying 2 watts of power, not 4 watts. It said 4 watts originally. Low latency, extreme long range, video decoding. Be interesting to see. It does say, and here is really interesting. Notice this. Let me get my head out the way. No, not that way, that way. 720p, 120 frames a second. They are saying this VRX does 720p, 120 frames a second. That is interesting. Dual antennas. HDMI output, which is fine. Easy OSD setup, which is fine. Multiple channels, so he's got adaptive frequency hopping. Easy to carry. Didn't realise that was an important factor. Wide voltage, all weather. Micro SD card slot. Multi-platform. So yeah, look, it's looking very, very interesting. 720p, 100 and 120. Could we see Ascent finally start to really show what it's capable of? Someone has said they're showing the latency at 35 milliseconds. Yeah, look, I think we need to test it. It is absolutely possible the latency with this is going to be much lower than it is on the Ascent goggles. We don't really know the full ins and outs of how the Ascent goggles are adding latency. Someone has said we need to know what this works with. Well, it works with the Ascent VTX, and that's it at the moment until they release others. I have seen people talking about, will there be any compatibility with the ArtLynk system? I am going to say this now. Expect no compatibility from Cadex with other products. Cadex appear to be going down their own route with the Artisan system. They've paired the VTX with a completely different chipset. Don't expect this to work with ArtLynk. This is Cadex. Cadex, Cadex, Cadex. They're not going to make this compatible with anyone else's gear. They have no reason to make this compatible with anyone else's gear. Cadex are arguably the number 2 in digital FPV. Why would they want to make their... There is so little margin in this now. Why would they want you to buy VTXs from others? Yeah, look, someone has said, and look, this isn't ArtLynk. This is Cadex Ascent. Cadex Ascent uses the same chipset as ArtLynk, as does the Anti-Gravity A1, as does the Potensic Atom 2, as does a number of different drones. None of them are compatible. Just because it uses the same chipset doesn't mean it's the same. What we have with ArtLynk is what appears to be a reference design type from Artisan. ArtLynk, because it's basically the same VTX as the Start FPV or Start RC, and that looks to be an Artisan reference design. We now know the chipset used on ArtLynk is Artisan as well. That has been found out by a guy who's managed to dump it. I don't have mine yet, so I haven't been able to do it, but we now know the chipset on the ArtLynk is Artisan as well. So if you take Ascent, the Ascent goggles use Artisan and Artisan. Artisan chipset for the main video and Artisan RF chipset. But the Ascent VTX is using a high silicon main SoC and the Avatar chipset. Technically, and I have to hold my hands up here of not clicking to this and calling Cadex out for something which actually now turns out may have been correct, or is correct so far. Cadex said they were using their own chipset solution. Chipset is plural, combination. In PC terms, chipset always used to be Northbridge and Southbridge, for anyone who's been around long enough for me, as me, in the days where you had a Northbridge and Southbridge. Chipset is a plural, 2-chip solution. Cadex have a unique chipset solution. They are the only ones we have seen so far to be using Artisan with high silicon in the VTX. So they may have been... No, they were correct in what they were saying. Even though I called them out saying, well, it doesn't appear to be correct. Now we've seen more. It actually turns out it was correct. Does it really mean it's better? No. But that word of our own chipset solution technically is correct in the sense of they have a high silicon with Artisan, and we haven't seen anyone else do that pairing. I am sincerely hoping that isn't the reason why we're seeing all of the problems, the juddering. I've tested the new firmware. It's as bad as the old firmware. Albert Kim, put up a video today on flying the a ArtLynk system, Aquila 20, and it looks decent. I'm looking forward to getting it myself. I don't see the judders in his firmware video, in his movement. I'm not seeing the stutters that I see. He just did a fly with it around the car park. Let me just find that video. Someone shared it with me. I suggest go watch it, but this is his video where he takes it for a fly around the car park. I am not seeing the stutters that I see in Ascent when you turn. Ignore that, that's DJI O4. I don't know what he's done to DJI O4 because that looks horrific. I don't know if he's got the wide angle lens on that. But no, here. So when we see him turn, I am not seeing... Although he's moving very slowly, but I am not seeing the stepping stutters that I see. Later on, he's moving a bit faster. So let me just move it. See there, I'm not seeing the stutters there. Can you see that? That looks fine. That looks smooth. It looks fine. Anyone who's flown the Ascent, you will know, if you've got one, you'll know what I mean. You get this stepping, a very noticeable stutter of the image as it moves around. This looks fine. But I will get my hands on it. Yeah, it looks, it looks better. It genuinely looks better. So I'm confident at the moment that that looks okay. But look, I've ordered the VRX from Cadex. I've got the VTXs. I've ordered the VRX. As soon as that comes in, someone said, did I see the Ascent flying video by Stuff B Matt? No, I haven't. I'd like to have seen a bit faster flying to see how it looks. We'll have to wait until it comes. Look, I'll do my own video on it when it arrives. We're going to have to just wait and see how this looks. But look, I think this pricing is extremely aggressive. Extremely aggressive. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're going to have to wait and see how it goes. But it is interesting that it does support 120 frames a second. Someone said about Avatar HD, there's no compatibility with Avatar on this. Ascent is not compatible with Avatar. Avatar is not compatible with Ascent. They are separate things. I do wonder how much Cadex, that SoC is hurting Cadex. Does the consumer version of the VRX? Not as far as I'm aware, Wes. I don't think it does. No. Has a USB port. One of the pics. That's all the pics I'm looking at. So that one. That one. That one. Oh, we're missing a side. Are we missing a side? Let's have a look down. Unless there's a picture side missing there, is there? below, someone was saying. Okay, on the SD card side, I'm guessing. Micro SD card recording. Oh, yes, look. It does. Interesting. Although it's rendered, so let's see if it's there. Yes. Someone said, just got HDO2 with rapid fire. Would the VRX be compatible? Yes, absolutely. The manual will have to explain the USB-C. The USB-C will be up for the update in firmware. Remember, this is largely running smartphone SoCs. The USB will be for update in firmware. Because it's largely running a camera ISP SoC for smartphones. It's kind of that area. That's what the USB will be for. What goggles do 720p 120? None, but it does 720p 100. Having 120 support just makes sense. The existing VRX can do 120. 120, you will always have the multiples. So if you think about it, 30, 25, 30, 50, 60, 100, 120. Yeah, when sending Crossfire over the link, Wes. Yeah. And look, I have to say, I said this when I flew the system. The RF performance of the system is fine. It's just the juddering is driving me insane. If we get the juddering sorted, it's got some hope. It really, really does. If Cadex then push some bigger power VTXs really quite quickly, we're going to have to wait and see. Here, the ArtLynk system is better than this. The comments are yes, but I haven't tried it for myself yet. Any ideas if they would come up with an external VRX? I don't know. Look, Beta FPV are not known for making loads of products. You know, if you look at Beta FPV, they make some of these cheap, you know, low-end consumer drones, which they do quite a good job on. When you start getting into the electronics, they make if you take Express ELRS as a good baseline for what the kind of things Beta FPV can do. They do the light radio, which is a cheap one, which isn't even officially supported by the Express ELRS project at the moment, if I'm correct. Wes, can you confirm the 4 isn't supported? I believe the 3 is, but the 4 isn't, is it? It's not officially compliant, is it? They make a few receivers, but they don't go all in. Beta FPV really don't build big product stacks. If you think about it, Beta FPV don't really make 4 or 5 inch quads even. You know, when you get into the drones that Beta FPV make, they have the Aquila series, we have the Air series, the Meteor series, and then we have the Cinewhoops. Beta, they don't, you know, they're not like Gep RC as an example, who make an iFlight, who make products all the way up and down the stack. They tend to stick around the low end. So I'm not sure Beta FPV are the company that are going to make a VRX. I just don't know. I'll ask them because I am talking to Beta FPV at the moment. So I will ask them. But we're just going to have to wait and see. That's what, you know, it's not really the kind of thing they do. Run cam maybe? Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. Yeah. Do I think the higher power will fix the bad ascent? We don't know. What I do know with Artisan tends to behave a lot better with more RF power. It has always been the case. Avatar HD is terrible at 25 milliwatts. Terrible. DJI O5 is incredible at low power levels. Avatar never has been. So Artisan tends to do well with a lot more power. But the stuttering issue is not power. Stuttering is either VTX camera ISP side or goggles image delivery side. it's one of the two. We don't know yet. I'll understand a lot more when I get the VRX, because when I get the VRX, I can actually test it on a proper set of goggles. We can test the latency on a proper set of goggles. We will understand where we're at. If Cadex can fix the stuttering issue, Ascent is game on for me. The only complaint I have with Ascent today is the stuttering on the image. The RF behavior, the power for 100 milliwatts is good, and it was good enough. The RF low signal behavior I liked. I have no complaints. I said that in my video. I even like the image quality, although it's noisy as hell on that camera. That camera is terrible. But the stuttering is a complete no-go for me. I cannot recommend it while the stuttering's there. I just can't. There is a minimum level I expect, and the FPV image shouldn't be doing that as you're yawing. It's a minimum standard, and we don't have it on any other system, okay, apart from OpenIBC, and we didn't even have it on T3. So, but I'm really, from what I've seen, I'm hoping I get this in the next week or so. Beta FPV are very kindly sending me the Aquila 20 HD to have a look at. I had a good chat with Beta FPV this week. I've also ordered separately the VTX from Beta FPV, so I'll get that. I don't know when either of them are coming, but I'll have the VTX. We now know it's all artisan, so now we just got to wait and see how it all performs. But yeah, interesting. APFPV doesn't have the stutter either, someone said. Yeah, I still haven't had a chance to do it. Look, time is complex for me right now. I don't have the ability to put crazy amount of times into... Someone's asking, what do I know about DJI Goggles 3 display units? Can you use them to fly? They have firmware 90.04. What do you mean by the display units? The Goggles 3 have OLED displays. Look, I think... Can it be any worse? We'll have to see what the drone is like. Can it be any worse than the Protoss? We're going to have to wait and see. Someone said Onyx is Pedro's new project, but he did admit it's not. No, it won't be the AR8030. You won't see the AR8030 in anyone's hands other than what we're seeing it now. Ah, you have a set of goggles that are disabled display unit. Yeah, okay, they're probably a pre-release set of goggles. Might even be a set of goggles... Integra. Early versions of the Goggles 3 were basically goggles Integra and Address. There has been a few pairs of these goggles appearing online. They never really were designed to be sold. What we don't know is with the display version of the goggles. We don't even know what the hardware is in them. It'd be interesting to tear a set down, that's for sure. Yeah, look, we don't even have any recording versions of Ascent yet. You know, there's no DVR versions. There's lots of interesting stuff yet to come. So, that's it. As for CES, Cadex, I don't have any pictures, but Cadex are at CES. And they are showing some stuff off. It's nice to see these goggles. We don't know what they're going to actually be like, but let's wait and see. It'll be interesting to see how all of this pans out. Cadex seem to have a lot of irons in the fire right now. That is for sure. But look, let's see. Let's wait and see. Right, the next thing I want to talk about is this. And this is with regards to the FCC covered list. Now, obviously, I had my original video. I do have an update video. I wasn't going to record one because JB actually did a great job on his. It covered everything. It was like what else is there to say than what JB said? So I sat here and thought, do I make a video? Do I not make a video? I might just record a video and say, go and watch JB. And then I felt, well, if I'm going to record a video, I may as well make a video, which I made a video. And then I went on to make a Q&A video, which is a lot better than the original video because it's basically all of the questions answered. But then I messed up the export of the video, which means I've had to take it offline. And I now don't know how I feel. I don't know, because it had hardly any views, which is weird. I put it up and no one was interested. So I don't even know, is it worth putting this video out? Or do I just put out the Q&A and move on with our lives? The reason I wanted to do the video was to explain some things, because obviously we had the original FCC situation with the covered list, which includes items such as flight controllers, motors, and batteries. And this specific element obviously caused a lot of debate, because there were people quite rightly saying, this motor doesn't transmit, therefore it's not under the jurisdiction of the FCC. And that is correct. However, that didn't change the fact that it was on the list. And I've always had this opinion, that is, if it's on the list, there are implications. Now, at no point in my original video did I say, you will not be able to get these, they are covered. I don't know how many times I have to say. What I said was, I don't know. What I wasn't going to sit there and say is, hey, they don't have jurisdiction on this, don't worry, it will be fine. Because we don't know. No one knew. There is not a single freaking person on this planet who can sit here and say, I knew this, you're wrong. Because it's in the fucking documentation. And if it's in the documentation, it is relevant. Only once you get this sheet of paper is it then different. Not opinion. And the fact is, opinion is correct either way. It is absolutely correct that they don't officially have jurisdiction over this, but it is also a fact that it's on the covered list. And that has implications. I still think this will have implications. My opinion, but I don't think it's quite as simple as we think it is now. But the FCC have rolled out some updates to the covered list, which, number one, relaxes the restrictions a little bit for Blue UAS, NDAA compliance as well. But more importantly, they clarify the situation on things like the motors, the batteries, and everything else. If we scroll down, we will get to the pointers where they were talking about components that don't usually fall under this classification. You just find it. I've scrolled past it. Here we go. Question. Some of the UAS critical components, for instance batteries, traditionally do not even require FCC equipment authorization. Do they now? The response is no. No device now requires FCC equipment authorization that did not already require equipment authorization. Generic batteries and similar components are unlikely to have required FCC equipment authorization before, and therefore would not newly require FCC authorization. So, the motor, the batteries, if they're not transmitting, are not affected. But it is now only a fact, now it says it in there. It was never a fact until they said that. You can absolutely say, well, it was never going to be the case. But the fact remains that these are still on the bloody list. If you scroll up, they are still there. Those items have not been removed. And where my concern is that this documentation gets interpreted and someone at a port, whether it's dealing with imports, looks at this and goes, oh, what is it? Drone motor. Oh, drone motor's on the FCC covered list. Has it got special authorization? And you turn around and go, no, it doesn't need it because they're not under their jurisdiction. And they're going to go, sorry, mate, I don't know anything about that. All I know is it's on the list. And that is where the problem is. If it's on the list, it's a critical component. Someone will interpret it that way. And that is the problem, and that is my concern. However, the great news is this is clarification. There is also some other items in here that they go on about. Things like dual use is fine. Other things like that are absolutely fine. They go on to talk about DJI as well. You're absolutely fine flying your existing products. There is no restriction on existing products. But the good news here is, whilst things like batteries, battery management systems, motors, sensors and cameras are still on the covered list, technically, these are the definition of critical components. They have said if it didn't require FCC certification before, it shouldn't again. So there is good news here, but I'm not convinced it's all 100%. If you want my opinion is I suspect it largely won't affect consumers. Retailers, I think, might be a problem, and this is more about people building drones now. This is more about using components. They've added some get out of jail cards for the made in America. So if 65% of the cost of the product is of US manufactured components, you can use the remaining 35% for foreign made drone components, although you only have a year to do that. They've given you a 12-month out on that, basically. But I do see some ways around that. If you imagine you're building a UAS, if your frame costs $10,000, your flight controller made in the US costs $5,000, and your motors cost $250, I think that's how they'll get around the 65% rule. My reading of that as well is it's 65% cost, not 65% of the components. So if the vast majority of the manufacturing cost is in US made components, you can still use foreign ones, but they have an onboarding requirement. So you've got a year. Basically, anyone making UAS in the US could technically still use foreign made motors, still use digital FPV systems, as long as 65% of the cost comes from US made components. So that's the get out of jail plan. But yeah, look, I think it's good news. There are a lot of people still twitchy. I've seen a few posts on people saying, you know, is this going to affect AliExpress? The truth is we don't know. I wouldn't expect it to, but we don't know how the likes of UPS and others are going to handle this. That's always where the issues are. You know, we don't know what's going to happen at the ports. It's unknown at this moment in time. But look, carry on as normal until it isn't. That's the simple rule. Keep flying until it isn't. So that's where we are. I'll probably now just put out the Q&A video because I think it's a good video. The Q&A really does cut to the chase. I'm just annoyed I filmed like an half-hour video that I haven't published. I can't believe I exported it. For those who haven't seen, let me just find the export so you can see what it was like. It was horrific. I don't know how I missed this. So for those who didn't see, this is the quality of... It literally... That's what happens when you export at 4K at 6 kilobytes a second. It is in 4K. Look. 4K. We're in 4K. But at 6 kilobytes a second. It's quite an interesting look. Anyone who thought doing this was easy. How many people spotted my faux pas on today's video? Because I had to take a video down today. because of the dreaded 2025 versus 2026 wording. I started today's video, the first video I published today is the second version, because I started it saying from the 1st of January 2025. Wrong year. Honestly, it'll take me a while to get my head back into the game. I'm finding it extremely difficult to make content right now. Yeah, look, it annoys the shit out of me, stuff like that, so I end up changing it. I could have put a correction on, but the problem is something like that then just devalues the message in the whole video, because someone will then go, well, if you can't get the year right, how can I believe anything else he said? Yeah, look, I left it, I took it unlisted for about 3 hours and then noticed some people were still watching it, and then I've taken it offline because the other one has been up a few hours then. So, but yeah, look, yeah, you were like, it was like 0.01 in. I just like, how did I do that? How did I even do that? Yeah, where, oh, you were, yeah, SB Vice. Once you told me it was the beginning, I pressed play and I just went, I can't leave that. I can't leave that. That was just, if it was halfway through, I'd have been all right, but I can't leave that. Was the file size small? Do you know what? I've deleted them, so I don't know what the file size was at 6 kilobytes a second. I don't know. Interesting mistake, let's say. I don't think I haven't got the original files. Very funny. Very funny. But yeah, look, I need to make a decision, and the decision I need to make is, and I'm going to probably put up a poll on the channel. And that poll is, do I stop making videos about things like the FCC, legislation? Today's video doesn't fall into that because it's slightly different. Because today's video is as much about DJI being a bunch of twats as anything else. However, I don't know now, is it time to step away from making videos on things like FCC and stuff like this? I'm not in the US, so for starters, I'm always interpreting it from my perspective here in the UK. I always have an opinion on these things, and I try to put how I feel in my content. People can often criticize me for being drama. You know, there's a post from one of the people who likes me the most, Darren Lyons, or I think it is. He has an opinion, let's just say, that I'm drama tech or something like that. And a lot of the time it isn't drama. It's because I'm fucking annoyed, and I share that, and I don't dress it up. There are times where I'm not giving you a balanced both sides view. I'm giving you these are a bunch of, and I'm annoyed about this. And that was the video that got me into trouble with Cadex. That was a absolute emotional reaction to their crappy behavior. But there are times where I do wonder if it is better to stay out of some of these things. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah, and someone said some of it is a reaction, and it is, you know, I don't pretend to always be right, and I get things wrong. What I will always be, though, is honest in what I've said. If I've said something, I've got it wrong, I'll apologise, or I'll say it how it is. I'm also getting a bit fed up of being misrepresented, because it's like you say, I don't know, and someone says, well, you said this. And I'm like, well, no, I actually said I don't fucking know, is what I said. It's like, listen to the words I said in the video, please. And I will often sometimes lean on the more negative side. That's how I am. That's a reality. That's just... but I also think too many people lean on it's going to be okay. Sometimes it's shit, and it needs to be said as much. You know, and that's what I try to do. But look, I haven't decided. Look, I think we're coming to the end of having to make videos about this FCC stuff as well. The Q&A I've put together is genuinely a nice... It's a short video. It's not very long. How long is it? For me, it's a bloody short video. Let me just have a look. It's not a long video by any means. It is a... How long is it? Please tell me. 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So, and it hopefully covers everything people need to know where the situation is today. There's no opinion really in it. It's just question, not question. I didn't do question and answer, but I went, this has happened. This is the outcome. This is this. This is what you can do. This is this. This is this. It is absolutely a video that you can share. Someone says, what is the score with this? Am I allowed to do this? Am I not allowed to do this? How does this affect me? It tells you everything you need to know about your DJI drone, about the components on this list, about that. It just goes bam, 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 bam. Someone said, I'd rather you talk about the breakdown, let Baldwin and others deal with the politics. Yeah, but then you're only getting a one-sided view, you know, and everyone has an opinion. And sometimes that opinion needs to be outside the country as well, I've learned. It's not always good from that opinion being in the country. And also, perspectives are different. You know, I don't work in the drone industry. I very much lean on my content being from consumer perspective. I don't give a shit about retailers, brands, or anyone else. I have no care at all if something I say has as long as it's true and it has to be factually correct, I don't care if that has a negative effect on a brand. So here's an example. The Cadex situation. They did it. They get the noise for it. I don't care. I don't sit here and wonder and think about what effect that might have on my relationship. Or does that mean, you know, where's the balance? Sometimes if someone's bad and it's shit, it needs to be said, and that's it. So, but look, we'll see. Look, I think there's been so much talk about this year. It gets tiresome in the end for all of us, including me. I think we all get tired of it. But I'd like to think we're coming to the end of it. DJI have acted like they have, and they've done their bit. We've got the new UK regs. We've got... thing. And probably I'm going to talk a lot more about UK stuff. I spent a lot of time on the US stuff. I used to talk an awful lot about the UK regulations. Look, I deal with compliance and regulation on a daily basis, and I used to do a lot around that side of things, and I took 3 years out. I just got fed up of the whole UK drone thing and just stepped away from it. But I am going to be giving a bit more opinion on the UK drone side of things because it is an important element to us. I stepped away from camera drones for 3 to 4 years. Yes, I did see the M3. Yes, the UK police had a crash into a kid, which is very unfortunate. They didn't see a power line, a cable. I don't know what it was, but the drone then crashed and hit a child. Very bad luck, you would argue, but also if you weren't flying over people, it would be unlikely to hit them, but we don't know the trajectory of the drone. For all we know, the kid was 30 yards over there, and if you lose a prop or a motor, the reality of a drone just going is fairly low. There tends to be distance involved to the landing point. I think it's extremely unfortunate. How much you can blame the pilot, I don't know. We don't know the situation. Look, there are a lot of flights that have had very close calls with power lines, with drones. There was a video someone posted flying a drone of DJI's over a bridge, and they missed a cable by millimeters. You didn't see it until it was like there. I can't remember what video this was. It's a few years ago. It's 4 or 5 years ago that I recall this. And it was only like that distance away that the cable became visible, and you just went straight through, and they just missed it. So look, it isn't great. I wouldn't criticize the police for that situation. We don't know. The truth is, we don't know the ins and outs. Yeah, there's been a few which are like, Jesus, that was close. So, yeah, look, we're going to have to wait and see. But look, we're coming to the end of the regulation stuff. I think it's time. What I don't feel is right, and this is where I have a concern by not sharing an opinion, is you then only get the opinion of a smaller number of people. And I'm not saying their opinion is wrong, but you then have a smaller opinion. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You know, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to ask you to buy my frame or my motors, or I don't know. I'm not in this for anything, but I love the hobby, and that's it. You know, it's really that simple. I could do with a few more Patreons if you're listening out there, because it ensures everything gets paid. However, other than that, we're okay. Donations and Patreons are fine. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but Patreon and donations are fine. But yeah. Okay. Anywho, what else was I going to talk about? I have forgotten. Somebody remind me. I know what it was. Let me just find it. Patreon pays for the tea and the products, and it took a big dent this year because I didn't buy that anti-gravity A1. And I'm going to have to buy an Avata 360 when it eventually launches. God knows. Didn't I tell you, though? Everyone's sitting here going, it's going to come out before Christmas. Told you. It wasn't going to be anytime soon. Q1. Still not out. Jumper have announced the... but I skipped on the Neo 2. I did skip on the Neo 2. I didn't feel I could bring anything to the table on it. And from a financial perspective, I knew the Avata 360 was around the corner. My problem is I can't afford all of them. The anti-gravity A1 was a particularly expensive purchase. That is the most money I have spent on a drone in a very, very long time. There's actually a reason I've flown it a lot more than I have a lot of the other drones, because it costs so much. It is an extremely expensive product, which I will never get the money back through content. Should have gone for the... No, look, I think there is a lot of interesting stuff. Oh God, not the Inspire 3. I'd have to remortgage the house. Obviously the Avata 360 is interesting. The Neo 2, I don't know. To be honest, I was going to pick one up, but they still haven't had the transmission module available. Until they get the transmission module in, and I'm in winter, right? Right now, buying the Neo 2 would have been extremely difficult. But someone's those AOS motors hanging over their head sure show off, aren't they? Oh, they are very nice. Chris's motors are very, very nice. The AOS's. There's a very nice motor. Do you know how many people... I don't know. Do you know what? I haven't spoke to Mr. Rosser for a very long time. I need to ping him a message how he's doing. It's been a while. Do you know what? I haven't even seen Chris's videos pop up. Is he producing anything? It's either he's fallen off my... You know what YouTube's like. Or I haven't seen. I haven't... He's counting his cash. Chris works hard for his money, though. I will say that. He might be trying to sell you something, but he does work hard for his money. I haven't seen anything from Mr. Rosser for ages. So, yeah. Right, I just want to quickly talk about this, because I do have one of these coming. But Jumper have launched the T15 Pro, a pro version of the T15 radio. Very interesting. Screen size, 3.5 inches. Hall sensor gimbals. We've got transmission power, which is 1 watt. 21700 battery option again. And it does look like a pro version of the T15. T15 was a nice radio. However, it's not quite up there with the TX15, but it is a nice radio. But the pro version is this. I think I'm getting the blue one. I think I'm getting the blue one. I'm not 100% sure, but it'll be interesting to see what it's like. Nice to see Jumper continuing to make radios. I don't know if they're full metal. I can't comment until I've got it. I don't have it yet. I don't know. The T15 was certainly not a bad radio by any means. So it's a very, very good radio. But the only downside to the T15, the screen was quite laggy. It needed a bit more. It was a good radio, but it just needed a bit more power. But you can see there that they've got promo video as well. So Jumper are still doing their thing. Shoulder switch buttons look massive. I'm definitely intrigued at what this is like. Definitely intrigued. It's nice to see Jumper still doing stuff. But yeah, should come in anytime soon. Should come in anytime soon. So, a Dyna Jukebox. Kind of like the coloured faceplate. Yeah, Jumper are doing... yeah, Jumper are doing some good stuff. We're just going to have to wait and see how it all pans out. No, I don't know a price. I haven't seen one. I don't know. We'll have to wait and have a look on the video. Avata 360 end of Jan. Probably, yeah. It'll be a China launch first, I believe, and then the rest of the world. We'll have to see how well DJI have done. There are probably 3 areas of 360 drone struggles with. DJI have certainly done something different with the fact that it rotates the camera. Also, we did see this week, and this was a bit of a surprise. It looks like the Avata 360 is going to work with the DJI RC2, which is the first time that drone has. If we look at this image, this leaked earlier this week. Why is that so zoomed in? There we go. This image was leaked this week that the Avata 360 works with the DJI RC2. And that isn't via USB from the goggles because that has the proper logos on the screen. That looks like it's properly compatible, which is the first time we've seen the Avata work with this remote. No reason it couldn't, but it's the first time we've seen DJI do it. Obviously there you can see that the camera has tilted over. It's going to be very interesting to see how this works out. They've solved the landing problem, that's for sure, because you're tilting the camera, so you don't have the lens on the bottom. So that is absolutely a benefit. It's also going to help in single FPV mode because you're, forward looking only if you don't want 360 video, because on the A1 you're stitching, so you're not flying level, so you've got to remember the aircraft is like that. So if where's it vanished to? It's Shah. It was on the bench. What? That's it. So with the A1, you always have the stitch line at the front. So the thing to remember is, if we fold it out, when you're flying forward, your angle is there. So your stitch line is down here, because you've got your 360 at the bottom, 180 at the bottom, 180 at the top. So you're flying forward, your stitch line is going to be down there, with the ability to rotate the camera. So in essence, you're going to be flying like that from a lens perspective. You're then able to crop on the full center of the image sensor for your forward field of view. Now, you still have the same problem that you are cropping. Remember, these are 4K sensors. It'll still probably have a 4K sensor unless they've crammed in a 6K one, but let's just say 4K sensor. You're still cropping in dramatically because you've still got a 180-degree image being pushed onto the window. Because remember, you're not changing the lens, but you are cropping the center of the image. The problem with this drone in that scenario is when you're flying there, your stitch line is down there, you are cropping forward from this point here, but you're cropping off the edge of the lens. You're cropping a combination, in fact, of two lenses and the edge of two lenses. And that is potentially where this lets itself down, because you're cropping at the worst positions, and it is having to do a lot of software work to create a usable standard field of view image. Whereas with the Avata 360's ability to tilt the camera forward, that means you would be able to crop the center of the image nice and cleanly. And that is potentially a huge benefit. We're going to have to wait and see, but it potentially is a huge benefit. I had to have a think about this earlier. I was talking to a friend and just about this subject, and it got me thinking, what are the benefits of having that go forward? Obviously, we know the lens is fixed, so the field of view is the same. But what other benefits could there be? And that's where I've come up with, oh yeah, think about this. You're looking at the center of the image. Good. You're at the center of the image sensor. Good. It will make quite a bit of a difference. Quite a bit of a difference. So, yeah, the field of view would, yeah. The only other solution is 3 cameras. That's the only other way to do this. If you really wanted to make a true usable drone, you would have a 3rd camera lens on the front. But it would have to be a decent image. It is the center of the lens. Absolutely. Center of the lens is usually the sweet spot. Distortional, aberrations. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is going to make a lot of difference. I'm also intrigued, and here's another interesting element of this drone. For those who've watched my videos on the A1, you do get a lot of flare off the props. I don't think you're going to get that on this. With these enclosed props at the side, I think you won't get that lens flare at all. So again, that is a benefit. There is a lot here that looks like it could fix a number of the quirks that the A1 has. And I actually think the A1 is a really interesting drone. It's not that I don't like it. I really actually like it. It's not a long-range drone. It's certainly not a drone for congested areas. It is an unparalleled flight experience. And I'm going to make a prediction, because I'll be buying this, right? So I have no money in the game here other than my own. There is no DJI influence. There's no anti-gravity influence. I will bet now that the A1 will be a nicer flying experience, but that will be a better drone and a better camera drone. I really like how the anti-gravity A1 flies. The feel of it and the immersiveness of it with the goggles. The goggles 3 can't give that same level of immersiveness because of the difference in displays. The vertical versus the horizontal. It's completely different. I think the A1 will still be the most immersive and more interesting flight experience, but I think this will be a better camera drone in every way. I think this will not have the lens flare issues. You can tilt the camera forward. That means you can get the best image when flying it as a normal drone. I think it'll fly longer, and you've got the DJI OcuSync O4 as well. However, having flown the Avata 2 this week and the Neo, I think DJI will overdo it on the FPV side of flying this drone. I think it will be too reactionary. I think it will be... You fly the Avata 2 with head tracking. You can't do what you do on this. I can tell you now. It's horrific as a comparison. If you can use head tracking on the Avata 2. You can look around on the Avata 2. But try flying the Avata 2 and looking a different direction. The drone freaks out. It doesn't know what to do because it can't look there. It has to change its orientation and then try and fly to that new orientation whilst the one-axis camera is trying to look where you're saying. It just can't do it well. It completely freaks out. And in the end, if you push it hard enough, it'll just go roar and then stop again because it doesn't know what to do. You know, with the A1, and I don't know how many people really appreciate what you can do with this, you can just fly forward and just do this and look around, and the drone doesn't move. The drone just keeps going in the direction you left it. There's no disturbance of the aircraft. There's nothing like that. The drone just keeps doing that and you're looking around. Whereas the Avata 2 completely freaks out when you look around. Completely freaks out. You can fly and stop and look around, and it's a bit of a delayed experience. I was making a video on the comparison of the two. But the A1 is on another level. Another level on that side of things. It's a really interesting drone to fly. I don't necessarily think it's a great camera drone. Whereas I think this will be a great camera drone. We don't know what the price on this is going to be. I really hope, and I really hope this, DJI, if you're listening, please release it, that it has support with the Goggles 3 for every feature, and you sell the drone only for people who've already got it. So I don't have to buy another set of goggles and a remote controller just to get the kit at the beginning. Please sell it as drone only. Please sell it as drone only. I have Goggles 3. I have your Love Toy 3. I have plenty of remote controllers. Can I just have the drone, please? That would be fantastic. Otherwise, I know what's going to happen, because this is what happened with the Neo. I'm going to end up having to order the Goggles N3. I had to buy a Neo kit to get a set of goggles. Nope, DJI going to buy Goggles 360. Yeah, there's no new goggles coming that I'm aware of. So, Yeah, drone and the 3 batteries, please. That'll be fine. That's all we need. So look, it's exciting times. We're just going to have to wait and see. It'll launch in China first, probably. Right. One last thing I just want to mention. I put a post up earlier in the week about DJI O5. Someone on Instagram has a post where they are saying, people like me, tech-tards is the term they used. I actually quite like that term. Tech-tards of FPV. I am a tech-tard of FPV. You can't fly. Hey, I've never said I'm a great pilot, so I'll take that. But he's been talking pretty much nonsense about all of the tech-tards didn't spot this. There's really DJI O5 in the Neo 2, or this chip is part of DJI O5. And it's just, honestly, at times I have to bang my head against the wall because, first of all, the Neo 2 doesn't have anything to do with OcuSync in it. Remember, there's a separate module on the back of the Neo 2 that has the RF module. The Neo 2 doesn't have an ear unit. There is no ear unit in any of DJI's consumer drones. Their drones are completely vertically integrated from the top down. If you go on FPV Wiki, we have images of all of this stuff. It's there. We don't have the Neo 2 because I didn't tear it down. But the RF system is in the bloody module that goes on the back. Now, there is nothing in the Neo 2 that is specifically related to DJI O5 or anything else. The Neo 2 does use a different SoC than used in the Avata, the Avata 2, and the Neo. Pretty much, no, not pretty much, DJI O3, DJI O4, the Avata 2, and the Neo all use the same main SoC, which is the E3T. DJI run the Flight OS and all of the main video processing on that, and then you have the separate chip for the RF. So in the original Neo, sorry, not the Neo, in the original Avata and O3, they're using the P1. In the Avata 2, the Neo and O4, they're using the S2, but it was the same video processing SoC. The Neo 2 does use a newer video processing SoC, a higher power one, not called the E3T, it's just called the E3. And that is needed because that drone has more object avoidance sensors, LiDAR, more of the automated flying capabilities. That has nothing to do with O5. That chipset needs to have more horsepower because it has more vision sensors, it has a LiDAR, and it has all of the additional flight capabilities. Could you put that chipset in an ear unit? Yes. It is completely pointless because you're not using all of that additional capability. You need it in the Neo 2 because it has all of that extra hardware. Just like this has all of that extra hardware. Because this, off the top of my head, also uses the same chipset. Because it has all of the different camera sensors. So there is no O5 in the Neo 2. There is no O5. It doesn't exist. I don't think it will exist this year. There is no real rush for DJI to do anything with OcuSync moving forward. It's pretty much peak now. Will there be some changes? Yes. He went on to say it's got O5 because it supports 80 megabits a second. Yes, it does support 80 megabits a second. So does O4. So does the Neo 2, Neo 1, and the Avata 2. All of those drones support 80 megahertz carriers, 80 megabits a second. DJI don't use it, but they all support it. If you go into the FCC filing for the Avata 2, which is the first product that used this, It's all listed in there. It always has been listed in there. If we go down to the test report, let's do the test report for SDR. I don't want the 2.4. Where's the 5 gigahertz one? I don't want the appendix. The 2 of 3. Well, give me this one. No, I don't want appendix. That one will do. Let's see if this one does it. So if we go into the test report for the Avata 2, if it wants to open, I think this is the Avata 2. Or not. We might have to download the PDF. This website is junk. Wait, hey. Right, what product is this? Just check. Yes, this is the Avata 2. Okay, so if we look at the SDR on this, the Avata 2 SDR. 2.4 gigs SDR. In 2.4 gigs, it's 60 megahertz. And in 5.8 gigahertz, it's up to 80 megahertz. But I don't, this is the 2.4 gigahertz report. I need the 5.8 gigahertz report. Not the 2.4, damn you. Where's the 5 gigs report? Maybe that one? No, that's Bluetooth. Why is half the reports missing? Let's do it on DJI O4. FCC IO is not behaving well today. Oh, God. Cloudflare for you. Oh, my God. Look at the adverts on this place. Right, come on. FCC report. Where is it? Test report. That one there. Go away. That one. If it ever wakes up. Because this is just... Yeah, the Avata 2 is a hell of a drone. Honestly, it's going to be a hard... And look, don't expect the Avata 360 to look as good as the Avata 2, because it's unlikely to. Oh my God, welcome to the... Oh, well, that's very broke. I wonder if I search Google for the test report, will it come up? If I don't, I'm going to give up. Oh, let's see if device report gets it. Where is the right report? This one? Look. Nope, set up photographs. Come on. Which of these is which? You got the letter. Where's the FCC report? Is this the full report? No. Data sheet. Oh, that's 3. No, that's page 3. Right, right there. 3, 2, 4. One. There it is. Found it. Right, here we go. Get down to the right part. There you go. DJI O5 Pro ear unit. Maximum bandwidth 5 gigahertz, 80 megahertz. It's always been capable. O4 supports up to 80 megahertz carrier. Has from the very beginning. DJI don't use it. I've not seen a single product that DJI have used it in yet. Tell you one they might use it in, the Avata 360. That will be interesting. Will the Avata 360 be the first product to use 80 megahertz? We haven't seen it yet. It's absolutely capable. Always has been. So, yeah. One channel. Yes, one channel. 6 kilobits is 4K. It does. So, yeah, look. Nothing against the bloke, but the problem is people talk shit like that, and then I get loads of messages of people saying, why haven't you spoke about this O5? And it's like, it isn't O5! So that's my rant. Oh, yeah, that's going to wipe out everything. 80 megahertz cap. 60 is bad enough. 80 is just going to go across the board. I don't know in other countries. I can only talk about the UK. I've not seen 80 megahertz in FCC or CE mode. I've not seen it anywhere, but it's capable. Oh, all O4 products are capable of 80 megahertz carrier bandwidth. They are technically tested to 80 megahertz. They actually test it in the FCC documents. You know, they even test the carrier. That not having the test modes. All FCC tests are done in a test mode. I don't know what data they push through, but they have there's a test mode specifically. DJI actually have a software tool they give the testing house. I think it's called DJI SDR Tools off the top of my head. They refer to it in the documentation. Oh no, sorry, DJI SDR Console. They actually refer to it in the documentation. Test software, DJI SDR Console. And this is used to... yeah, I wish I could have it as well. I would love to get my hands on that. Yeah. Looks like 3 channels available in 80 megahertz mode. QPSK. Yeah, all the usual nonsense, which I always read. People don't really, and this is what makes me laugh, because people don't really, we tend to know what a product is already. What and 5, yeah, O4 does 5.2 and 5.8, so always has. In C region, O4 will do 5.2 gigs. So... which has been the case since O3. DJI actually slyly stuck it in O3, because I have a video on it after a firmware update. DJI sneaked in 5.2 gigahertz capability in O3 about halfway through its lifespan. Max dB gain on the antennas, 0.5. Yeah, I think they label between 0.5 and 1.5 for the antennas. Do I have anything against UFL pigtails? No, as long as you use good ones on O4. As long as they're quality, they should be fine. I don't... Look, there's a theoretical loss of pig coax, pig connector. don't largely worry about that stuff. People read way too much into this shit without real world testing. Trust me, the things I have pumped a kilowatt of RF through in my time, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You get lots of talk of going, yes, but every connector has 1 dB of loss or this. Trust me, in my radio amateur days, I was pushing a kilowatt up some dodgy coax up to a 3-element Yagi on top of a rotator with 4 valve PAs. You don't know a connector until you know a PL259. That's a proper connector. None of this nonsense that that we have on FPV and drones today. When I want an RF connector, you want an RF connector that looks like this. That is an RF connector. Not your little RG58 ain't gonna do it. In my young kids' days, used to get a load of the corrugated coax that was nicked from the military, which had a physical copper sheath, but it was corrugated. So the coax was like, corrugated all the way up, but it was basically thin wall copper tube. It's what it was, with the dielectric and a solid copper core down the center. That was the good stuff. And then you would push a kilowatt of power through it. The good old days. Yeah, a few hundred watts. Yeah, you can probably push 200 watts up RG58, but it does start getting warm. It's quite funny. You know when you're pushing RF power, when your coax gets warm. We don't really see this kind of thing anymore. But in the old days, in winter, when you were pushing a kilowatt up a cable, right, you'd have your coax buried in the ground, going to the SCAFI tube where you'd have the beam on, and if it froze, you'd have a line going to the scaffold pole that would be thawed, and that was because of the kilowatt of power you were running up the coax. That was the good days. That's when we used to put a lot of power. None of this, we're talking about, we got a watt, we got 2 watts on Cadex. Yeah, or you'd be stringing a long wire up with a ballon, and then you'd have an antenna tuner that you'd accidentally knock and notice that you've put the SWR through the roof. And people worry about SWR in FPV. Guys, there is nothing to worry about with SWR at these power levels. Look, you're not going to damage a PA. Reflected power at 1 or 2 watts is really not a problem for modern transistors. Used to spend a lot of time replacing RF output transistors in old ham radios and CB sets for both CB and SEPT, for those who even know what that is. CQDX. But yeah, I am. Do you know what? I keep looking for those who've been around. I still fancy buying a Yaesu 1000 MP. For those who remember that radio coming out, they don't make radios like this anymore. This was the thing of dreams in its day. This radio, when this radio released, right, you wouldn't sleep thinking about this thing. This was the peak at one point. I remember when this launched, and Kenwood were doing amazing stuff. See, Kenwood went small and very electronic very early. Yaesu were a bit behind. Yeah, double VFOs. Well, VCOs. VFO. Yeah, no, VFO, not VCO. Let me get myself right. It's been a while. Let me get there. Double VFOs. Ah, when you could hear the skip coming in. Yeah, it depends the mode, technically. Yeah, you are correct. But yeah, they don't make radios like this anymore. This is just... The VCO is locking. Yeah, it's FT757. Still love that rig. Yeah, it's... You know, because voltage controlled off, VFO is variable frequency oscillator. But this was a heavily electronic handset. It is... This was just pornography. When this came out, this was just on another level. Kenwood was smashing out some big, nice radios at the time, but Kenwood were pushing electronic a lot. This thing is insane. I don't know how easy it'd be even to get a good one of these today. Oh, they were crazy money back then. I don't know what it costs today. What would it cost to buy a Yaesu 1000 MP today? Condition unconfirmed, 599. Tested, 700 quid. See, problem is power on. Yeah, it would be highest price down. Let's start the highest down and to £1,000 from Japan. It's not shocking. Is it fully working? Tokyo Tune. Oh. They don't make radios like this anymore. The good old days. Sold as is condition. You're paying £1,000 as is. Jesus. Boxed and in. Yeah, look, it's sad. These days are over. The sweep is gone. The days of bouncing HF signals around the globe are over. Unfortunately, you know, the propagation is just not there now. You can't do what we used to do. That's the sad part about it. People are still doing it, but it's not like it was. It used to be amazing. You could, for those who know, you could hear the sweep coming. You'd be listening to the noise, right? The white noise. You'd be listening and you could actually hear it coming. And it was like waves. You could hear. So the signals would start coming up and you'd start hearing it. And you'd then have like the tide was coming in. And you'd get on it. You'd get through and then you'd be peak up and it'd be amazing. You'd have people at the start as it was coming up, you could barely hear them, and then as it came up it was clear as day, and I mean you could talk to them and then it would fall off again and it was go down. And it was, I'm showing my age, yeah, it's nostalgia. I do yearn for a radio again. Put up an Anton 99 or something like that to see what would happen. People would notice in there. Or somebody here, Vicky. Yeah, this is just there was, and it's a shame. Look, it's I haven't used a radio for a long time, but I hear it's gone. I don't know. For anyone, you tell me, is it still there? There's a lot of noise out there. Does the sweep come in like it used to? Can you still bounce a HF around the globe? Is it possible now? I know it's quiet. It's just a shame. Good old days. Now we're obsessed with digital, and so it makes me laugh. And people talk, just very quickly before we wrap this one up, people talk about how much you know and how long you've been around, and people think, the old days of FPV on analog video. It's not the fucking old days of radio. We were pushing radio around the world years before that. But anyway, right, that's it. We'll wrap this one up. Look after yourself. We should be back same time, same place next Sunday night. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thanks to everyone on the super chats. I did see a few come in, but I missed them. Let me just say here, Michael, any recommendation Lions on 04 installation without extending MIPI cable? Any reconditioning lons on 04 Lite? Not sure what you mean. Get on my Discord, message me. Any recommended lons on 04? Lons? Not sure what lons is. And Hockley Rounds, thank you for the super chat. $2, $4.99. Lons, what does lons mean? Don't know what lons mean. Sorry, I've only just realised at the end. Come ask me, message me, lines, any reconditioning lines on 04 installation without extending the MIPI cable? Lons, any recommendations on 04 installations? Any recommendations on 04 installations without extending the MIPI cable on a 5-inch frame? You want a frame where you can put the VTX up front. Ross's allows you to do it. The AOS series will get you a VTX up front. Speedy Bee Mario 5, you will get a VTX up front as well. It's a little tight, but you will do it. They're probably the two I'd recommend. Right, that's it. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will speak to you soon.